Okay. Okay.
Warm up.
Share links.
Get the ducks ready.
Well, whoever is watching, do say hello. We can't see who you are.
Hey, Andre.
Magic, 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 magic.
Thanks, Andre.
Thank you, Andre. You may be our only viewer tonight.
This is the challenge of weekday nights.
We are sleeping earlier today. Yesterday's smash up had us sleeping at 2-ish.
Yeah.
Hello, Dane. Thank you.
Hey, Dane.
Much appreciated. Wow, everyone's on YouTube today. No one is on Facebook.
I guess we'll start in a minute.
Yep, we can start 9:10. Those who are wondering, no, it's not alcoholic. Doesn't even have sugar. It has nothing. It's artificial flavoring. Of all the Go Keto products, this feels like it's just really a sugar-free juice. That's what it is. 0 calorie, sugar-free. Oops, I don't have the intro up.
It's water but colored.
Pretty much. It tastes like red iced tea. I'll give credit to that. The artificial sweetener is not overwhelming or cloying. It works. Okay, I guess we'll start.
Okie dokie. Timer has started. This is Toby.
And this is Rocky.
And if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, our little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
This is completely unscripted, but not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us. We talk about everything and anything random live.
And if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Hey, Nico. We are on our 86th episode as we spend the next 30 minutes talking about
sort of after the quarantine. And then, this was actually suggested by Andre to some degree.
Mhm.
We just decided to narrow it to thinking about after quarantine because the original suggestion was after COVID. And I think after COVID may be a very long time.
Yeah.
But we figure at some point the government is probably going to relax quarantine standards significantly. And what will we do about it? Today, not coincidentally, but on a somewhat related note, today's our anniversary.
Mhm.
And it's sort of like instead of thinking all the things we could have done today, we'll just think about what we'll do in the future.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And sort of just really thinking also about what's gonna change, what's gonna be the same.
How has lockdown affected us in the sense of what will we start doing differently?
Yeah.
What will we start paying attention to? Stuff like that.
Yeah, because like today, like Nico was asking us, what's our plans for today for the anniversary? And then we said we ordered out for lunch, which was still a little special, but then admittedly, it's not something that we haven't been doing this lockdown period.
And while there have been people who have been going out, going to the malls, eating in restaurants, admittedly, we're not quite comfy yet with
We're
the
not
thought
super
of doing
excited about that.
So in as much as we would want to celebrate by doing something like that, we're not there yet.
Yeah. But thank you for the other anniversary greeting, Nico. Thank you. So that's thinking about it. So I figure, I don't think it's gonna happen this year, but I think by next year, there's even before a vaccine is fully tested and or released, I think we're gonna reach a point that our level of quarantine, if we ever get to like an MGCQ or whatever you want to call it, is probably going to be, fairly relaxed. And then certain things are going to happen, especially like places like O-Bar reopening, maybe theaters reopening,
Hey, Kenny.
things like that. And so I figure we're going to hit that point, maybe second quarter, third quarter next year. So what are we going to do about it? We sort of have notes, but then we didn't really organize this because then it could be a scripted show. So we'll just kind of run with it.
That's true.
But I think the first thing we'll think about is like, what are the safety? Are there going to be a change in safety practices come the lifting of quarantine? What are your initial thoughts, Toby?
Well, I think we still will be practicing a lot of the safety practices, simply because even if lockdown regulations and rules are lifted, or at least eased up, the fact that we aren't yet,
Nico will get to that point later. It's in our notes.
and the fact that we haven't yet received vaccines and the like, still just tells you that you'll still have to be careful. And even if, let's say, some miracle happens and the frontliners triple in number in the next 2 months, I don't think that's license for us to, ignore safety precautions and just do whatever we want. It's only because there's more of them to handle it now. We still have to do our part in helping keep the spread from going around. So I think by then, we are seeing that there are many masks that are much more fashionable now, or much more.
I know. I kind of envy Nikki's fishbowl face shield thing. And a friend of ours just gave us these lovely rainbow crocheted pride masks, which we haven't taken out of the packaging yet. But yeah, so there's we've reached the point where masks are becoming a bit more fashion. I'm super tempted to get this Trixie and Katya official masks, or I think it's just Katya, I'm not sure, but it looked like the print of the white shirt that we have. it's just things like that. Like we can really indulge in these things and like so yeah, I think masks are gonna be here to stay until like we reach a point where the disease is I don't think it's gonna get eradicated, but then that it's definitely reduced.
Hey, David.
And then thank you for the anniversary greeting, David. And then uh yeah, I mean maybe we won't be wearing shields as much, but then I think we're definitely gonna have face masks around for a long time.
I'm hoping malls step up in the sense of, um, you know how in some malls the air conditioning so strong that there's that wall curtain of air
when you enter.
to keep the air from leaving the mall or something like that. But then if they can do something that's more disinfecting, so people walk through.
Oh,
it
that's
and,
clever.
and that would be steps in the direction of feeling like we can be a bit more normal.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like we've seen disinfection tents at like hospitals and other high risk locations. But yeah,
Or
I
some
don't.
offices have those booths. Where,
Yeah, that looks like you're going through a transporter, but they're just misting you and stuff. And I know some of the research says that the risks of getting COVID from trace materials left on surfaces and clothing is not as big as it was initially feared. It's still a vector that we have to think about. So I don't know. That's something.
Because to the very least, even if let's say the person isn't infected with it, if during their travel or during their commute they happen to have been close to someone and maybe that person sneezed on their shoulder or something, then
Or
at least going through.
It's like when
we
you're
cut down.
riding a jeep and then you get someone's hair in your face. You didn't plan that, but it happens. So yeah, things of that nature. So I think on a personal level, we'll definitely keep masks up. I would. I'm half and half on shields only because depending on the environment. I mean, admittedly, I wouldn't mind doing because visibility is like a pain.
Yeah.
And then most people you see are wearing them as visors. On top of their heads instead of wearing it because it's just really one of the more difficult things to practice. I mean, there are certain environments, maybe like public transportation, when you're in close quarters.
Yeah.
I don't know about malls and social spaces.
Although the scary thing about malls is some of the studies have shown enclosed areas with not proper ventilation or circular
circulation
ventilation.
Circulation.
That makes it yeah, that's true. But it makes it scarier because now you're suddenly worried that even if there's disinfectant and all that, the air just carries it around.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that will work, and that still is always an area of fear for me.
And I think that ties to us still like not being super excited to dine in. I mean, maybe we might consider more outdoor eating establishments where circulation is a bit more assured, or at least it's not as internally circulated over and over. But then we haven't been super keen on restaurants. I mean, like hence today we just ordered out from Sari One again. Big surprise, guys! I know we were always eating a Sari One,
or maybe it's time for restaurants that have this no talking room. You know how some restaurants are like no talking, no lights because the flavors enhanced.
Not everyone is
if your
us.
senses are out.
When Toby and I are eating out, we do have conversations, but then also half the time we're reading. Only because I like to read. And then Toby indulges me and lets me read. And he'll also read. But it looks like we're fighting when we're eating at a restaurant.
But then you have other people we've seen who are all still, oh my God, it's sarap ng pagkain. And you're like, okay, I don't want to eat here because she's like super talking without her mask.
And like, spraying bodily fluids.
And it just doesn't make you feel safe. I'm not sure about movies.
I'm not sure about movie because again, it's an enclosed space
super
with
enclosed.
like low circulation air. I do miss movies though.
Yeah,
I super miss movies. But I think I think even in a post-quarantine life, we're probably not going to rush to the theaters. We haven't even considered the drive-through option, only because it feels very impractical and probably bad for the environment. So I think we'll just stick to watching movies at home for now. And we have more than enough streaming services to keep us occupied. If Disney Plus suddenly comes to the country next year, we're never going to leave. So I think that's definitely something to think about.
And then I know some countries have opted to have events where people were in sort of their own bubbles, their own cubicles.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
hoping
know.
for something like that here. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but that would be nice.
Toby just wants to be in a bouncing ball.
Also,
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. I think the Andre's asking about plays, concert, and theater. I think the same fear applies. Outdoor concerts may work, but then you're gonna have to figure out how to social distance everyone.
and let's face it, people in concerts, people scream and sing along, and that's a lot of saliva flying around.
Yeah, as given we just recently enjoyed the Kylie's Infinite Disco like online live stream concert style event. That was fun, and it shows that it doesn't have to be as limiting. So I
Mhm.
think I wouldn't mind signing up for more things like that while we're trying to be safe. Yeah, I miss live theater. I super do, but I don't know if it's safe yet. I don't know if it's even safe for the actors because even just rehearsals, that's weeks upon weeks of them practicing together on the stage. And then theaters do not have great circulation, especially in rehearsal mode. They're either going to use a smaller space or a theater without full air conditioning on, things like that. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge. Maybe not right away. Yeah. Oops, we lost our notes because messages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just reopen the other one. Okay, but yeah. So Andrew mentioned the hamster ball thing. That's what I was saying. That I'm sure Toby wants to get into a hamster ball, and go for it. But then that has, that makes things a little prohibitive in itself. And then you also have to trust how sanitized that hamster ball is. So unless you bring your own hamster ball.
Then there's of course bars. We will of course want to be able to go to O-Bar again somehow, someday, sometime.
Yeah. So admittedly, this is where like Toby and I go back and forth in sort of our perceived amount of risk and acceptable amount of risk. And I don't think there's a guarantee for every individual to have the same standards as the others. We all have different priorities. So I can forego theater, concerts, and the like, but I think we definitely want to find a way to go back to O-Bar once they reopen. Whether
once they can reopen.
Yeah, once it's safe for them to reopen, or once they have to reopen, because sooner or later they will have to, from a business standpoint. Then would that mean? I mean, if that means going to O-Bar in the afternoon because they're not doing overnight stuff, I mean, I think we're going to try to work around our schedule to figure out a way to be there, even if that means the experience is like wearing masks and shields the whole time. There were talks and rumors about that, like what if O-Bar reopened in that manner earlier in the lockdown, and it's exciting. It's still scary, but then I think we would definitely we would definitely want to find a way to support O-Bar. I think it's a fair statement.
I can't help but imagine they might like create 6-foot step boxes on the floors. So if you're standing in that box, no one should be in your box, so to speak.
I know the initial rumors were like everybody would have to be at a table, and then tables would have limited capacity, and then there would be acrylic barriers. Plus, you would still need masks and shields, and that's a lot. That's a lot of precautions. And then at least O-Bar has a very high ceiling, so circulation seems generally okay. But I think you definitely still need to keep your mask on, and maybe we'll all drink out of straws, just so that you can kind of slip it into your mask and drink. But yeah, I mean, that's one live entertainment experience that we're definitely going to try to make accommodations for, and I don't know what that's going to mean. It really depends on what protocols they set up in a post-quarantine life, but we're definitely going to prioritize getting back to O-Bar.
So beyond that, we have, of course, family.
Yeah, I think we already we generally discussed like certain principles. It's like, so we want to keep up closer ties with family. Definitely, we've been each of us in our own right have been trying to visit when we can,
Mhm.
but then it's always a mixed bag of you don't want to visit too often because every time you come from the outside,
It's a vector.
you're a vector for transmission, and you don't want to infect other family members. But we also like, um, of course, want to still be with them. We super miss family. We want to maintain those connections, and it's just it's a balancing act in itself when you live apart. I'm happy I live with Toby because quarantine, as I said, is so much easier with him. But at the same time, it means you live apart from family, and you got to balance that out.
And then there's, of course, the complications of when you do visit family. Um, in as much as you are a vector or a possible vector, it also then brings up the frustration of, with family. There is a lot of, I mean, there's not just immediate or biological family, but even chosen family. There's a lot of physical intimacy that you will want to do to express missing them. Everything from hugs to
Even just
beso and the like. And it'll always be weird if you don't do that. And worse, even if they say they ease up on lockdown rules, I think I'll still end up trying not to do them too much. Only because the last thing I want is for any family member to suddenly get sick and I feel I'm the one who caused it.
I mean, like, even just when I visit my parents, especially because I tend to come from like helping buy supplies.
Hey, Ram.
I need to wash. I super wash up. I like wash up the elbows. I wash my face. I practically take a shower if I could. I change my shirt before I can interact with them to any degree. Just because I'm worried about these things. And yes, we can greet everyone with "Live long and prosper," David. But you know how it is. Like, it's just not the same, especially for people that you're super close with. I mean, if I were to see any of you guys, it's gonna hurt me not to want to hug, not to hug you, because that's how we greet people as friends, especially, our very close circle of friends, our OBAR friends. It's like you're so comfortable with these greetings. I think I had this story sometime back where earlier in quarantine, I finally met a friend of mine who had mainly been digital. We only met in person recently during quarantine, and there was that. I first wanted to hug him because we've had so many good conversations. We both love Transformers, both love drag, but in different ways. But then we couldn't, and at best we took a selfie together, but it was like a socially distant blocking selfie. So it was just super weird to meet someone that way. And
thanks, Carlo, for the greeting.
Thank you, Carlo, and hello, welcome to the stream.
So Andre also suggests it's a good solution for the long run to bring your own stuff. That's always tricky because I guess on a personal level, of course, we would prefer to bring our own stuff.
Yeah.
But then I don't know if we can trust everyone bringing their own stuff.
Yeah.
Because we don't know if they're taking care of their stuff. We don't know how new their stuff is. I mean, I know people who wear gloves because it's supposedly how they'll stay safer. But then they're wearing the same gloves over across.
Then it's like it's the same dirt on it all the time.
So it's a bigger vector than your hands because you wash your hands.
This is why early on in quarantine, Starbucks banned the use of your own containers. That's why they're only giving disposables, because from a sanitation perspective, it is the minimum risk for both the baristas and the customers. So yeah, bring your own may not be a solution.
Yeah, and it sounds nice. It sounds better for the environment, but it requires a lot of trust and responsibility on every individual. And we all know for a fact when you have a mass of people and ask all of them to be responsible, you'll probably have 5% doing it.
Or you'll have them super responsible in the first few days, but then it's hard to sustain over time because people get tired.
Yeah.
That's like just mask rules, right?
Or they can't afford it.
That's also another consideration. The cost implications of these things. Okay.
I mean, I know there are people who even reuse those disposable masks.
Yeah,
They don't have a
I've
choice.
seen that happen.
It's expensive for some people. So yeah, family is there. And this includes visiting our dearly departed. Many of us have not been able to this November, October. So there is still that desire to try to catch up or make up for the time that you were supposed to visit because lockdown is still in effect. And lastly, you have those who live far away.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel that significantly only
mhm.
because a major branch of my family is not in this country,
Yeah.
and I have not been able to visit since the first quarter of this year. I'm
Mhm.
super glad I was able to visit the first quarter of this year right before lockdown, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's something to think about. And there is that weighing. I do want to travel to see them, but international travel definitely has its challenges. I've seen all these stories online of like what travel restrictions are like these
Mhm.
days. Sometimes it means like I'm gonna have to map out what like being on the road for maybe 6 weeks because the first 2 weeks might be a required quarantine in that country, and then 2 weeks at the end for quarantine in this country. So I'll get
Mhm.
1 to 2 weeks actually
And
in the
and
country I want to visit.
and that's what makes it even more complicated because things change. I mean, you might leave for the trip with that planned out, and then while you're out there, suddenly they announce they're closing all trips.
Yep.
So now you're
Then you get
stranded.
stuck.
And that's why I don't know if travel will be something we'll be embracing, even if they lift the restrictions soon.
Yeah.
As tempting as it is, it's still very scary to.
Plus, a lot of the hotels now, even from a staycation level or from a domestic tourism level,
Mhm.
are naturally requiring like same day rapid, sometimes just rapid tests,
Mhm.
sometimes swab tests. And that's why it's funny, I am seeing Facebook ads for medical testing.
Mhm.
And not the rapid, the same day swab tests are starting 6,000 pesos a pop.
Yes.
So that significantly increases the costs
Any trips you
of
might
any
consider.
trips, even just staycation, and then plus the risks of air travel and the like.
Plus the cost for the hotel you'll stay in because that won't be subsidized.
Yeah, it's like the testing cost is on you as a consumer.
And bear in mind that hotel cost won't necessarily include the food.
Yeah. So we have a standing commitment to Nico that we will try to figure out travel once it's safe enough. It's one of those and I think this segues into like that item B on our list where we've been thinking about the quarantine is given as a period of reflection
Mm.
and thinking about who are the people you actually talk to versus the people that you don't interact with as much.
Mm.
For example, I mean, naturally, there are a lot of friends from Obar that we don't really have a lot of like conversations with outside of Obar, and that's totally understandable.
Mm.
But there are some that I think we have become better friends over the course of quarantine
Or
because of things like Baduy Pride and online calls and
or discovered things we had in common that we didn't know we shared before.
yeah. So there's definitely like because of all the things we've learned about different friends and the like, then maybe that will change the sort of hierarchy of priority for like who we want to hang out with post quarantine and like and all those risk factors. Our standing concern is still there about anyone we meet. It is sort of like accepting mutual infection. Like if one of us gets sick, we're just
Mm.
gonna assume that it was going to happen, and we just want to make sure it's people that we can
Yeah,
trust.
admittedly, there is a factor of wanting to make it minimal impact as much as possible. So, for example, if we have a friend and we know the friend has, let's say, kids or they live with their elderly parents, then we feel better if we don't meet up yet. Only because even if we're close friends and we accept the risks,
We're
what
not
if-
just, in fact, we're not just
Yeah.
risking you, we're
What-
risking your family.
and we don't want to have that burden on either side. We don't want to complicate anyone else's life, especially now. Um, Even if you could afford it, to be in the hospital is tough. We know of some
No one should
people
afford
who
this.
were in the hospital for hours waiting for a room.
Yes, and that alone, I know creates stress
Mhm.
just being in the waiting room.
And
I
even
know
increases
friends.
exposure.
Yeah, I know friends who like need to go for like regular checkups or outpatient stuff, but are naturally scared to go to the hospitals because
Mhm.
this is like COVID ground zero.
So what more if a visit with friends leads to, let's say, a kid getting a fever, and now we're all worried because the kid has to go to the hospital.
yeah, that's a lot to carry, and we'll always think about that every time we weigh invites and the like, or meetups. So that's the floating thing.
Will
RJ
you,
asking if we're going to go to Obar as soon as it reopens. We were saying that we will definitely want to show support for Obar.
we will want to try to visit once it is something that we can do.
We'll definitely comply with whatever safety requirements are set in place. At bare minimum, I think we're going to be in masks and shields
and
as much as possible.
and we'd probably try to avoid any physical contact with anyone while we're there. Like when we walk in, if people are in the way, we'll wait for them to move away.
Yeah, so there's no beso, there's no hugs to greet.
As
It's gonna be a
painful as
lot of
that's
like,
gonna be.
it's gonna be miming everyone to wave. And how frequently would we go? I think if we could go, I think if we can go once a month, that would already be like amazing, but still kind of sad. If we could go every other week, I think that would be like my maximum level of comfort for balancing safety and the like. And then it's you have like a 2 week window to like monitor symptoms every time you go out or something.
Because planning to do that would mean also on our end planning, like for example, maybe we'll have upon arriving at home, ditch all your clothes, have it ready for washing, shower fully.
Yeah, like I don't know. Will we have like go bags by the door so that we just take all our clothes off and then put them in the bag, and then we'll deal with it when we're less drunk.
Yeah, thankfully our condo does have those disinfectants for your shoes.
Yeah,
so
but sometimes they're not so wet.
Yeah, so we'll definitely try to make the most of it. When it's not wet, I go to the basement 1 area because that's where it's almost always wet.
Not the one in the middle, but the one for the bikes outside tends to be wet. I know that one. I know that one. Yeah. So, there's that.
So we talked about friends, we talked about family, we talked about the safety precautions. Travel, we sort of slightly touched on it, that we're still scared in risking it.
Yeah, and going back to that earlier statement of like, it's everyone balancing their personal sense of risk and what their priorities are and what their comfort level is. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I have a big priority to see my family in Singapore.
And I think if we reach a point where in travel bans are lifted, I think I'm willing to risk having you travel, but me staying only because if there's now any trouble or whatever, then at least I'm here ready.
There is that.
Because if we both travel,
then we both might get stuck,
and most likely, I don't think they'll allow us to stay together anyway if we have to quarantine in a hotel or anything like that.
I think we get to quarantine together.
I don't know
because we travel together.
Yeah, but we have different names. And
is that.
You know how we won't be recognized as a family.
We're technically 2 single people traveling together. That's
still a worry for me.
Yeah. Okay.
And then worse, let's say we're both quarantined in the hospital in Singapore. I won't have immediate family to connect with, so they might make a fuss about that and send me back. And it's
at least I have family in Singapore,
so that's what I'm worried about.
So yeah, I mean, because as we often joke that Singapore is my province because of the fact that my sister and her family are there.
So those who don't think,
it's like a very long bus ride for me.
So those who don't think gay rights and Sogi is important, this is an example of where it applies.
Yeah, it would be nice to be recognized as partners traveling together and not 2 single people.
11 years together. Come on, law. This is recognized by now.
Yeah, and this is also why like my life insurance policies don't have Toby. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
so moving forward, maintaining diets, healthy lifestyles. So keto, of course, doesn't count because keto was not a because of quarantine.
Yeah, I've been on it since before.
But because of
I was worried that you'd have break
to stop.
keto because of supply issues in the first few months of quarantine.
We found ways.
Yeah.
But I think what should not stop is your daily routines. I should really get into a daily routine somehow, some way. But I'd love to see you be able to run outside and not just in the unit.
Technically, I can. It's just comfort.
Exactly. And if lockdowns were eased up, then there is some level, a bit more of comfort, I guess. Because now at least you could run downstairs in the garden area or something.
To be fair, and I was like checking, right? Barangay Fort Bonifacio has for the last 9 days
Been quiet.
has had no new
Yeah.
cases. It's amazing. We have 0 active cases in Barangay Fort Bonifacio
Hmm.
for 9 days now. I mean, fingers crossed, that may change. But then, yes, I monitor the numbers daily.
Hmm.
I just copy them off. I have my own sheet. I have charts just so that for my own level of comfort. And I have been monitoring. This doesn't mean there are no new cases in Taguig. We still have about 20 or something new cases every day. But then Barangay Fort Bonifacio in particular has been
Yes.
quiet. So I'm like, fingers crossed that we maintain that.
Because BGC is not the entirety of the game.
Yeah, and BGC is not the entirety of Fort Bonifacio either. So,
Mhm.
it's not 1:1.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've found sort of new life in my home workout routines. I definitely want to maintain that. That technically started before quarantine, but I think I'm surprised at my own level of consistency despite limited space. I am going to reach a point where the freeze of my gym membership is going to lift, but I am not yet sure if I want to go back.
Mm.
If it means I will reach a point where I'm paying for my membership again and I'm not going, I don't mind. I honestly don't. It's like safety first and all that. Plus, admittedly, it's a lot more convenient to be able to work out here, and then immediately get ready for work. So maybe I would try once a week gym sessions, maybe, but only if I can't freeze my account anymore. And I probably do it for 1 month and then ask to freeze my account again for another 3.
Or since travel, let's say to friends would be better. If we do have friends who have bigger space and do some sort of workout thing, then maybe joint workouts would at least be
I
something
still
you can
don't like
attend.
working out with friends.
Okay.
Quarantine forced me to work out in front of Toby. I feel weird about working out in front of Toby. Although
Yeah, he doesn't like me oogling him.
although Nico once said like he wanted to try at least try yoga again because he did some yoga alone. And admittedly, yoga feels kind of. I think it would be interesting to practice with someone else. Hopefully, someone also with like actual yoga knowledge because my yoga workouts have only been app or YouTube video driven. So I'm sure some of my positions are wrong, but I go where it feels good and where my body takes me. Blah de blah. Yeah, and then I think also in terms of like pseudo good things from quarantine is that I learned to bake. Although I only bake one thing, which is my keto pandesal buns, and that's something I want to maintain beyond quarantine. It's it it it's still more cost effective for me to bake my own rather than purchase outside.
There's we know Deck who is also doing keto baking lately, so maybe there are some recipes we could explore that she's using.
Yeah, my sister did like brownies the other day, and like I just haven't like invested enough time and headspace into it, and also because I think the pandesal has become part of my routine, and that statement, part of my routine, has weight that only some people will understand. No, I just said okay. Happy anniversary. Okay. But yeah, and then I like the amount of cooking that we do now. We cook most of our meals. And I think that's been good.
I feel there's a need though to try to expand our options of dishes, only so that we can find other keto options that we haven't really considered that we can cook. Like I know sinigang works with certain ingredients removed.
Yes.
So maybe we should start cooking sinigang. It's just that to do it with the mix is the tricky part because the mix might not be keto.
Actually, the ones we use are fine. I checked.
Okay.
But except the gabi one, that's definitely not a good one.
And then there's other dishes like that. So the idea of finding ways to expand on it. I know I tried with salads. At least I found a bunch of dressings to invest on. So we have a bunch of different dressings.
Toby discovered that there's this blue cheese dressing that the carbs were okay. There were like 2 to 3 grams of carbs per 2 tablespoons or something. So that wasn't bad. But
Compared
then,
to some salads have like 12.
yeah, so early quarantine, we ran out. And then every time Toby went to the grocery, we would not see it. So it was months before Toby saw it again. And the moment he saw it again, he bought like three. And then now, every time he goes to the supermarket and he still sees it's there, he buys one to two more because he is maintaining a ridiculously healthy supply of blue cheese dressing.
Because it's yummy.
It's good dressing. I'm not discounting that fact. I'm
I
just
mean,
saying it's kind
and
of
it
funny.
has allowed our Parmesan cheese to last longer because now the dressing doesn't need cheese.
It's like the fact that we maintain 3 to 4 cartons of eggs in the fridge at
Mm.
any time because again, early quarantine we were traumatized that there were no eggs at the supermarket.
Mm.
So we now
And,
maintain a
well,
larger.
that's also
inventory.
for baking and any other
Don't
purposes.
throw my baking into
Why?
this.
Were you able to really bake if I didn't buy extra eggs?
No, it helps, but I only use 3 a week. That's one dish for you. You stress that you use 3 eggs per dish. Okay, Kenny asks, what things and habits you developed during pandemic you're gonna carry and continue over after COVID or stuff? I mean, so the baking is one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, I think especially we're probably going to be working from home for quite a while. So the amount of cooking I think is
Mhm.
going to stay at a similar level, especially since we're not going to be comfy eating outside still. What
Uh,
else?
I'm hoping that the supplier of groceries every Friday in the building does not go away because I love the fact that the salmon that they sell is much more affordable.
It is very. We should like get their contact information
Yeah.
outside of this
But
because
it's like a very nice slab of salmon for like 350. So
it's become a new part of Toby's baking repertoire.
yeah, and then I actually don't have that many new habits. I actually lost a bunch of habits because of lockdown.
Mm.
It's been a struggle to write. I've barely been writing. It's been a struggle to run games. So I think I'm gonna fail this year's 12 new games. Um, what else? Mall trips have pretty much been just
They're functional.
functional. So
Oh, that reminds me. One thing we're probably gonna keep up. We were just talking about this the other day. Cutting our own hair.
yeah, actually, I think we will cut our own hair from this point on.
This masterpiece, isn't it awesome? No,
I don't miss having to go to the barbers.
I don't. I do miss pedicures, and I saw someone on my social just got a pedicure today. I'm very envious.
I think you can still get pedicures. We just
Yeah.
won't get the haircut pedicure combo.
Yeah, it's just so much effort to go out of the house. So I haven't gotten that far.
Or maybe it's time to consider someone we can have over for a pedicure. Because that we can control to some extent.
Are they cute? No.
Pedicure is not a code word.
No.
Just making sure.
Yeah, I mean that's something. Or just I just have to go. I just have to go. I mean, I know it's a service that has been restored recently. And we can totally go for that again. It just it used to be convenient to do it at the same time as a haircut. It used to be my combination. It's like haircut, foot spa, haircut, foot spa.
David shares keeping the facial hair.
We support you keeping that facial hair, David.
Even the short trim.
Yeah, and the short hair is like pretty good.
Mhm.
He's indirectly getting a call out. Yes, he is, because I envy that pedicure. And then I think I'm undecided on my own facial hair experiment. There is actually a pending Baduy Pride topic about facial hair.
Oh wow. I'm surprised. We
Yeah, we still hit 10.
Wow.
But I don't know. Toby keeps saying that we should have like pictures and stuff of like what we like and don't like, and I don't know. But my personal quarantine facial hair journey, this is it, guys. It's not that robust. It really doesn't look like much. It just looks messy over here. But yeah, I think I wouldn't mind. I know my family doesn't like it and just wants me clean, so we'll see how
That's
that goes.
family for you. So Kenny, there is
There's a roving market
yeah
that visits the
a
building
mobile palenque.
every Friday.
So they set up shop downstairs so that the people in the building don't need to step out to buy groceries. And this is everything from greens to fruits to really good shrimp as well and salmon. Rocky tends to be the one handling the cooking when it's the shrimp. I tend to cook the salmon. We also tried getting from them
The
the
liempo.
liempo before,
That was okay,
which
but then
wasn't
it's
so
like
bad.
it's a tough
It's hard to
cut
cook.
to use. Yeah, it's hard to
It's
hard to
messy.
manage.
It's messy to cook.
Not that the shrimp is easy. It's so much cleaning.
Yeah.
It tastes really good, but it's so much effort to clean. Especially because I tried to clean out the poop chute and all that.
Mhm.
I mean, I could be lazy and just boil them, but it feels wrong. So I really try to clean them out. Yeah, so that's things that
Okay. Other stuff post lockdown that we would like to be able to do. There's the regular stuff we have totally stopped or failed to schedule. These range from passport renewals,
Oh my god, our
to
passports are expired. guys.
dentist visits. I'd like to have my eyes checked again in a more official, where really is my glasses level.
Hmm.
Should I progress beyond reading, or should I really just stick to using it for reading and really get used to not using it for everything else? And I don't know.
I think Toby already needs permanent glasses, especially with all this screen time.
Yeah, but at the
That's just
same
my
time,
assessment.
I do still find myself unconsciously or subconsciously peering above the glasses when I deal with anything beyond a certain range.
Mm-mm.
So I think I have to still just be aware more of that.
Yeah, Toby's still spotting the windmills in Laguna, so apparently from our window. I don't know how that. He had to Google Maps just to show me that. Look, Rocky. I
Oh my
think
gosh.
this is what I see.
Hi,
Sophie.
thank you for the greeting.
Hello, hello.
But yeah, I want to visit the dentist. I want to get a good checkup, cleaning. There's always that fear now of, are there like cracks forming or cavities that have to be spotted because we haven't been able to get a checkup. Yes.
I'm thinking what else. But yeah, because like I know I visited the dentist like really early quarantine or right before quarantine.
Yeah, because you had the
I had a broken filling, and
Yeah.
then admittedly, I still haven't been able to chew on my left side
Mhm.
most of this quarantine. It's very sensitive, and we haven't figured out. I'm worried if it means they have to pull something out. So
yeah.
yeah, something to think about. And then I mean, and there's always the question of board game meets, and then I don't know what the plan is to make that safer. I know there are some friends who go to venues to play games already, and there are some who meet up on an individual basis.
Yeah, and that's the weird plus minus factor in it. Like, we have friends who are comfortable with going out, but then that also makes us now worry that they're greater vectors because they
Mhm.
have been going out. And then we have friends who have not stepped out for quite some time,
And you want to respect that also because they are also not comfortable with socializing.
but they would be the better people to have over because they've been like us, quarantining themselves from everyone else.
Yeah,
So,
for the most part.
ah.
So yeah, it's I don't know. There's no perfect answer for that. But I think, and this is like a general thing that I know we will definitely still prioritize people we know, or at least have a better relationship with, or people we know, even if it's been just mostly online.
Mhm.
But at least we have a general idea of your habits and stuff, as opposed to because before we would do open calls for games on Twitter and stuff, and try to host open game nights, so that people who want to try gaming for the first time can come over. So that I don't think we're ready to
That's
meet.
probably gonna stop for a few months.
Yeah.
More.
I mean, I still get people on like Growler who are like looking to play board games, and I
Mhm.
want to accommodate because you don't want to quench. You don't want to quench. You don't want to extinguish
yeah.
that curiosity to try gaming. But at the same time, it's really not the best time. And our profile clearly says we're
Mhm.
social distancing and not meeting people.
And then part of what would be nice to get back, but I don't know if we're there yet. Would be to like visit Green Hills or something, because we do enjoy our little
Yeah,
hunts for toys.
all my Transformers purchases have been online. I
Mhm.
have been leaning on the US a bit more instead of Green
I
Hills.
would like to have my laptop formally looked at by a
Oh,
technician.
that's true. Toby is the only one who's looked at his laptop from a repair
It's
perspective.
got new memory and it works, but the monitor is
That was a
still crap.
quarantine achievement. Toby installed RAM in his
Yeah.
computer.
Uh,
It's just his monitor is still on the fritz. Every time we tap the table, it blinks out just now. So
it'd be nice to get some repairs done. Everything from the mirror with the funky wheel to
the sliding door, yeah.
the other side of it.
I'm glad the washing machine. Oh my god, guys, we survived the washing machine having issues mid quarantine, and thankfully we had just shifted to GCQ, so we were able to get the repair people in. But
Mhm.
that was stressful, ladies and gentlemen. They took my washing machine away. Sorry, it's a long segue for the washing machine.
And then I guess the storm has also made us think about stuff like so we now have emergency cooking ideas with the electric skillet.
And that's a lot of tuna that we have stocked up because of the what is keto appropriate
Mhm.
for me in terms of canned goods is not much.
But it does now make you think about, should you have other adjustments for any other delivery chains that may be affected at any point in time.
Supply chain, not
Supply
delivery
chain,
chain.
right? Supply chains.
Yeah, at least, but I'm glad that like we're not super food panda dependent. I mean,
No.
like, so when the storm hit, power was out, delivery service
We
was
still had
suspended.
stuff we could
We
eat.
were okay. We were generally
Mhm.
okay. We just didn't have power for a while, but we were gonna survive. So that's a testament. But yeah, and then I think the big question also is, Baduy Pride, will this continue?
Yeah, I think Baduy Pride will still continue. I think it might lessen from a super daily perspective. Um, it helps in the daily thing, and it helps us stay in touch. It helps us stay social. But I do also miss doing other things. Um, we
Well, I think on weekends there will be less likely need, quote unquote, for Baduy
mm,
Pride if other options open up. I mean, like if we had a chance to go to Obar, then we would probably go to Obar and not be here. But at the same time, sort of as an offshoot of this quarantine, I think I don't mind though. Sort of our online like hangouts with friends, those little Google Meet calls and
mhm,
stuff, where we have a bunch of friends and there were some where we played Truth or Dare. There are some where we played Among Us and other
yeah,
digital party games together. We've
space
had
thing.
Jackbox sessions. So I think those are kind of cool. And then like
Mm,
as a compromise for like while we're all trying to still practice social distancing and but yet stay connected, I don't mind more of those activities. Those are good. Those are good. Or and the very at the also it provides venues to like talk to friends that we normally don't necessarily have to get have great conversations with because like we've said before, Obar is great, it's a fun place, but not necessarily the best place to carry a conversation
yeah,
unless you smoke.
because
Or
you're there really more to watch.
yeah, you're there to
and
watch the
drink.
show and to dance.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's our other like newer quarantine activity that we're probably gonna keep up is just dancing at home. It's not the same as dancing at the bar. Maybe we need to buy lights. I don't know. If I buy I don't know, one of those scent machines with the mist, then I'll feel like it's a smoke machine, even though it's like it's mist this big in area. That might be fun. And the fact that I got a second Google Home just so that we can extend music to
And
the
have it
bedroom.
stereo.
Yeah, so I mean that's I've invested in this happening. I'm tempted to get a third speaker and put it like in the kitchen. I don't know, just so that we have surround music everywhere.
Mhm.
Kenny says Baduy Pride on the road setup. Actually, that would be
That'll be
nice.
fun.
Baduy Pride travel. Actually, if you go to the main part of the YouTube channel, I used to make some videos of our travels, and I
Yes.
called it Baduy Pride Travel, which was like
Mhm.
uh, the dinosaur exhibit and our
Mhm.
few beach trips in Singapore.
But yeah, that
Yeah, I
definitely
would.
interesting.
I think we want to continue in content creation. This live format still suits us very well, only because I'm still we're st- I we it's a combination of not having enough time for and being too lazy to edit.
That's the truth.
So we don't want to do post production, so we're just doing live videos because there, and that's why we can thumbnail like just to make the initial photo.
Mhm.
What else, Toby? Anything else comes to mind?
No, I think I'm good. I think that's pretty much it. Um, sure. Yeah. I think I think we're pretty much unanimous that even if they relieve and loosen rules soon, we will still gradually build up to feeling confident and safe enough to do that as well. So, to any friends who might be excited the moment you hear, lockdown regulations is now dropped and only in ganyan ganyan sectors will it be maintained. Please understand if we still respond with, it's okay, we're not yet ready for guests, or we're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think, like, I don't know, our level of friendship may be along the lines of, okay, we can game, but do you mind if we all wear masks the whole time or something? And that would be super weird. It's hard to talk with masks on, but it might be the safest option.
Mhm.
Depending. I don't know. So, it's definitely going to be a continuing conversation that will have us looking at the ongoing infection trends in the area, in the
Mhm.
country, the latest safety standards information, whether communicated by the government or the World Health Organization and other experts, things like that. So we're constantly going to try to weigh all these things,
Yeah.
and then thinking about the safety of our respective
Hey,
families
Noel.
and other things. It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess the last thing that was born out of this is I think I'll still be supporting people who do their little businesses as they, got into
Support
baking
local.
or got into doing art commissions.
Despite this being a predominantly keto household, Toby has ordered a wide variety of pastries from different friends and family. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a bad thing to support. And then I also hope that like this sort of resurgence, not resurgence, but this new wave of like both of new and existing drag queens getting into digital content
Mhm.
creation. I think that's something I also want to continue to support and see how that goes because I mean it's interesting that this lockdown period has inspired new drag queens to come forward because the playing field is kind of equal, that they don't have to compete to get into a bar. They can just
Mhm.
set up a video and then they're already like performing, expressing their art and the like. And you totally want to support that. You totally want to support that.
Mhm.
Uh, Coincidentally, we just finished the Netflix series A Queen is Born. It's actually from Brazil, but it's about aspiring drag queens. It's actually quite good. It's actually quite good.
Very, very, very meaningful.
Very meaningful. And then it's not. We were worried it was going to be like them making these new queens adhere to a set, a stringent set of
Perform a
standards.
certain way,
But instead, they're more focused on
finding their inner.
helping that individual drag artist find their voice
Yeah.
and sort of hone what that's going to be their style
Mm.
and then steer them in that direction. So it's a surprisingly good
Mhm.
show. It has English dubbed audio, so that makes it easier to watch. You don't have to watch it with subs. But if you like watching subs, that's fine too.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was inspiring. So I mean, that's so going back. Yeah, it's like I want to continue to support the digital drag revolution, as it were. Noel is obsessed with Magical Girl Princess for the win, which is both the Smash Up faction that he'll most likely use and possibly his drag name. Yeah. Um, is there anything else I want to talk about? This is it's a long conversation. Actually,
Yeah.
a
I
lot
think that's
more of
pretty
these
much
Baduy
it.
Pride episodes are stretching for an hour. It's
Mhm.
interesting. I hope you guys enjoy the coincidentally longer format, and then the weekend formats are getting super long. You know,
Mhm.
we spent 3.5 hours for the pre-anniversary episode. That was amazeballs. Okay, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so I mean, my only wrap up is everyone continue to stay safe, weigh
Mhm.
your priorities and your level of safety and what amount of risk you are comfortable with. But then always recognize that any social interactions in person
Mhm.
will come with risk. And you'll have to weigh this carefully against your obligations, the people you live with, whether
Yes.
family, roommates, or other friends. It's a lot. But then I know that it doesn't discount the power of online options for interaction.
Mhm.
And there's still a lot of power there. There's still a lot of strength. There's still a lot of real connections. I am super appreciative again of like uh, about the friendships that have deepened across quarantine. It's like a lot of you guys who were like, I mean, we're all generally friends, but I feel like this shared Baduy Pride experience on most nights.
Mhm.
Um, it's a new bond that we all have, and I super value and treasure it.
Yeah, and even if things are loosened or lifted early, just bear in mind the pandemic is not over. It just only the regulations and how the government has decided things are handled might have changed. So still watch your budget. Make sure that you're safe in terms of, if if things get worse, are you sure you still have funds if you need to buy this and that? Um, don't just go on a splurging spree just because suddenly we don't have to do social distancing as far as the government says. Always, always play it safe.
Oh, and then if there is a reason to go out, I will finally invest in changing my wardrobe.
Yeah, I was thinking about buying clothes, but I was partly thinking that is that something we'll do once lockdown is loosened, or is that something we'll do once we've hit your ideal?
Yeah, I want to get to at least below 70 kilos. So
Mhm.
we'll see how that
Because
goes. I've
we'll,
been like teetering these last few
I
months.
feel like we'll only buy your new wardrobe once we hit that, regardless of when lockdown is looser.
Well, I still think it'll only make sense for me if I'm at a better weight and lockdown is lifted because then I have places to go.
Yes. Since
Otherwise,
you're not really stepping
there's
out.
no point buying new clothes if we're just gonna wear them on the show.
Yeah. That's also why we don't need to have underwear anymore. To like slowly face the bound. Because we're always at home anyway.
11 years of this. 11 years of this.
11 more. So
Only?
yeah.
Why are you setting a time limit? How dare you?
So it's every 11.
Why are we using 11 as an
So
interval
it becomes
measure?
a nice 11, 11.
It's a weird prime number. It's not a prime number I dislike, but it's not a favorite.
2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4.
Oh boy. Anyway. Yeah. So I think that wraps up our show and thinking about what we're gonna do beyond quarantine, but not necessarily beyond COVID.
If you want to surprise us, just know we're both mediums. So if you want to send us a couple shirt, ha ha ha, that's an idea. Something to think about. But that was definitely more than 30 minutes. We had a lot of fun and we hope you'll join us again next time.
If you have suggestions for future episodes or just questions for us as a couple, feel free to fill up the form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. We're not going to have a show tomorrow, I think, because our vampire game is going to push through. But, however, Friday, we are going to have MC Black as a special guest. So if you have questions that you want us to ask in our interview of MC, feel free to use the same Google form so that we can gather more information. I'll be plugging. I mean, I've been mentioning the guesting on episodes, but I haven't put out social media material, which just means me digging up an OVAR photo that I think looks cool. But we're definitely gonna do that. You can follow us on Twitter,
Altobi.
Altovino Shade, RG Sunico.
You can also check out our blog. That's baduypride.com for all the previous episodes.
Yeah, then you can see the anniversary post I wrote this year. And then feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below and let us know, what do you think your life is going to be like after quarantine? What habits are you keeping? Which ones are you changing?
When daw si Precious?
Precious, because we had already scheduled MC, Precious will be the next Friday on the 27th. So 20th is MC, 27 is Precious. Yeah, and then be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream.
I'm sorry.
David says he didn't know we were both psychics because we're both mediums. See? Do you approve? Do you approve?
Good call, David. Good call.
Don't encourage him. Beware. I don't know. Like between you and Ed, are you the punner or punnier? Okay. Okay, shout out sa Tinder ni Precious. Was that the post earlier? I know we were all making fun of Precious's post earlier. I did
I
like
didn't see that.
because MC reshared it and I answered like, oh, is this like hashtag sarap ng Pinoy or something?
Was that the?
Yes, yeah.
I saw that. I saw
So
that.
support. Okay. Yeah. So that's the wrap up. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is
Baduy
Baduy Pride. Have a good evening, everyone. Stay safe.